Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And I'm here to tell you that the best-selling free speculative fiction book on Amazon today is about a college student who wants to be a veterinarian, and she's working as a bartender to support her dying mother, her little sister, when an EMP blast takes out all electronics. But before we get to that, we have 9 other books to get through on today's top 10 list. You see, every single Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of every book on that top 10 list. Today, I was helped out by news editor Alex KOROLOV, assistant fiction editor TERRENCE Smith, reviews editor Mira Lutfi, and community members Tim McHugh, Christina Brown, Carla Nordland, and Lilibet Dominguez Torres. And Terrence and Tim are with us here today. Hi, Terrence. Hi, Tim.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Maria.
Thanks for coming out and helping me with this. All right. So, so for those who aren't aware of this, we are currently in the middle of our spring submission cycle. Terrence is our assistant fiction editor, so he's in charge of those submissions. We've had several hundred already come in, right, Terrence?
As far as I can tell.
Yeah. And the deadline is March 31st. So you guys have a week left to submit your short story of 1,200 words or less for our spring submission window. And yes, you can use AI to help you write your article, but you probably don't want to submit the first thing the AI gives you. I've seen a couple of those stories. They read like Wikipedia summaries of stories. Plus, you can't copyright something that an AI has just generated. You have to put in some work and some creativity of your own to make it something unique. So you can use AI to help you out, but don't expect it to replace you as a writer.
Anyway. I mean, it can be used to generate ideas, help develop plot outline, but the writer is ultimately the one who has to write the story.
Yep. You can also use it as a grammar checker. There's lots of ways that writers are using it, but don't expect it to do your work for you, because the end result reads like a Wikipedia summary. It's not very readable, and we're just rejecting those out of hand. So save yourself the time and just like don't even bother. Okay, so let's get to the first book on this list. We have quite a few post-apocalyptic books on the list today. I guess people were kind of in a grim mood this week. So, and I read this first one, or the 10th one, since we're starting at the end and counting down. And why I'm going to make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see that. There you go. Hurst by Robin Crumby. The first of 5 books in the Hurst Chronicles, which is a post-apocalyptic series. The other books are $4 to $10 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited, so you will have to pay for them. And I guess people are paying for them because they like that kind of thing. This is a zombie survival book. And I'm not a fan of these because I kind of feel like we're living in a pandemic apocalypse right now. So I don't want to be reading about it in my escapist, leisure free time. But I guess other people are not me. So the book starts out in Hurst Castle, which is across the channel from the Isle of Wight. And about 74 people live in it, either in the main building or on tents on the grass outside. Zed sleeps inside, but it's crowded. So he likes to get up early and go out for a walk. And so he's out on the castle walls, looking out over the horizon when he sees someone staggering in the distance. And he has a pair of binoculars that are stored in a large blue plastic IKEA storage box at the top of the castle wall. So I'm immediately thinking, oh, this is the near future. All right, it's the real world. Now I know where it's happening. And the man in the distance is limping and dragging his left leg. So Zed smiles slightly, gets out a hunting rifle, and shoots at the approaching guy. Everybody runs out to see what's happening. Zed has missed, so he shoots again, and this time he hits the guy in the head, kills him. And everyone's like, oh my God, why'd you kill him? And he was unarmed. I mean, he was harmless, right? And Zed says, oh, he was infected. He was a zombie. And folks are still mad because he fired the gun. They don't want everybody in earshot to know that they're there. They've talked about this before. They've had discussions. They don't want to attract attention, and they don't want to waste the bullets. So Zed seems to be kind of going off on his own here, doing stuff without the community support. So I don't like Zed. I don't like the other people very much because they can't seem to get a control over Zed and kind of like govern themselves and or anything. Also, it's a zombie pandemic story, which I don't like. So the survival squabble among themselves. They're having to scavenge for food and fuel. There's other groups of survivors out there, but they don't seem to be on very good terms with them. And then we get some backstory about the virus that nearly killed everyone, as well as backstories of some of the survivors. And some more people arrive at the castle. So I read the first few chapters, and it's really not clear what the main story is about, what the big conflict is, what they're trying to accomplish, other than just survive. And so even though the book starts right out with an execution, it's actually pretty slow paced. That combined with the fact that it's not my genre means I'm not going to be sticking with the book, but I do have to say it's readable. I mean, all the books on the top 10 list are readable. So if you like zombie apocalypses, you might enjoy it. Next, we have Strikers by Ann Christy, the first of 3 books in the Strikers young adult dystopian series. The other books are $4 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. And Tim, you read this one, right?
I did.
What'd you think?
So I'll just give my review of this one. So this book takes place in another dystopian post-apocalyptic world. This one's a version of the United States where the Republic of Texas is the last civilized settlement. And I've only read a handful of books in this genre, so I'm not really the main audience for this one, but I was really intrigued by the premise. It seemed really unique, so I wanted to check this one out. So the first few chapters give us a glimpse of the rigid laws that the Society of Texas follows. They live under this strict military regime, and they follow a simple system of justice. If you break the law, you get a strike. If you get 5 strikes, you get the death sentence. So the main character is Karas and her 2 friends, Connor and Cassie. They come from sort of the more disreputable parts of Texas. Karas comes from a broken family. She's never met her father, and we don't really know anything about the rest of her family. And she's only 16, but she already has 1 strike, which is tattooed across her neck.
Oh.
Connor is from a long line of schemers and rule breakers. His older brother was a 5 striker and was put to death. His other older brother was a 3 striker who actually escaped from Texas, and they're hunting him. So Connor is kind of born into breaking the rules. Their third friend, Cassie, is sort of the good one of the bunch who they try to keep out of trouble, but she's hanging out with them, so she's probably bound to find it. In the first chapter, they attend this public parade of criminals who were caught beyond the walls of Texas. And most of these criminals are either strikers, who are people who try to escape the colony, such as Connor's older brother, or smugglers who try to break in with any sort of contraband they can get money for. And Connor's worst fear is realized when they see his brother, who they had hoped made it to freedom. He's paraded along in chains. So they think the worst has happened, but then Karas, she hears the first prisoner call out to her, and she doesn't recognize the man at first, but after seeing this tattoo on his neck, she remembers the man she's seen in photos, and it turns out to be her father, is strung up next to Connor's brother. This sets up the next chapters where they're going to break into prison to try to find out, what her father has been doing and talk to him. But that's where we stand right now. The writing in this book is mostly good. The author has a little bit of a habit of over-explaining in her narration, which kind of pulled me out of the story a little bit. But it wasn't too bad. I don't have too much to complain about. if you like dystopian societies and if you like protagonists who like to break the rules, you'll probably like this one. Even though it's young adult, which I don't usually read, I'm totally hooked by the premise of this dystopian Texas. So I'm gonna stick with this one.
It sounds a bit like the Hunger Games or the Handmaid's Tale, one of those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely in that category. So yeah, if you like those ones, I think you'd like this one.
All right. All right, next we have Arcane Rising by Nicole Taylor. And there's the cover. Let me make that bigger for you guys. It's the first book in the 4-book series, The Darkland Druids. The other books are $4 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. So this book is set in the same universe as another series, The Crescent Witch Chronicles. And so if you've read those, you probably want to read these too. And the premise is that 5 druid families fled a war-torn Earth, and they wind up on an alternate Earth where they are rebuilding in a new world. And so the story starts out with Gordon, who's fighting out-of-control brush fires in Australia when he sees a dangerous magical creature, which kind of like a human, vaguely human-looking monster. He has to stop it to protect his crew. And then I'm thinking, oh, this feels like it's starting like in the middle of things. So yeah, if you've read the other series, I think you'll be a lot better off. The monster wants to find a girl named Elspeth, and Gordon uses his magic to defend himself against the monster. And the monster says that Elspeth needs to go back to her people. But Elspeth is Gordon's daughter, and he's willing to risk anything to keep her safe. Then the story switches to Elspeth, and now it's in the first person. The cops are at her door, and she knows what they're going to say. She's the daughter of a firefighter. She's long been prepared for this visit. Yeah, and they tell her that her father died. So she's depressed. She stops looking for work. She just wanders around. She doesn't know anything about her origins or who her mother is, just that she comes from somewhere in Scotland. So on a whim, she decides to head to Scotland. I like Elspeth. I like the way she interacts with people and the pacing of the story and the combination of action and kind of thoughtfulness. But I did not stick with this because I actually read this before. This is the second time this book has been on this list. And I did not go back to finish this book, probably because the books are not in Kindle Unlimited. So Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $10 a month and you read all the books you want, kind of like a Netflix for books. And if it's not on Kindle Unlimited, you have to pay money for each book. And there's a lot of books in the series, and you have to read the other series too. So that's a lot of work, and there's a lot of stuff on my reading list. So I never went back to it. But if you like this style, or if you like this author, or if you like the genre, and especially if you've read the other series, then definitely check this out. All right, next we have The Golden Spider by Ann Renwick. Let me show that to you. Here it is. It's the first of 4 books in an Elemental Steampunk Chronicle series of steampunk fantasy. The other books are $6 each, and the series is not in Kindle Unlimited. And community members Christina Brown and Carla Nordland both read the start of this book. And Terrence, you're going to tell us what they thought about it. And you're on mute. And you're still on mute. Okay, so I think we lost Terrence there. So I am going to go and tell you about this book. Okay, until Terrence gets his stuff organized.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. All right.
Yeah, Zoom crashed.
So what did they think of this book?
one thing that they both enjoyed about the book was creativity of the steampunk gadgets in it, because part of steampunk's aesthetic is modern inventions made with older parts and elements. And one thing that Carla was uncomfortable with was the murderers that the main male protagonist is chasing down. This person is killing people of a specific group called Romani, and that aspect of the story makes her very uncomfortable, even though she has not read the entire story through, so she doesn't fully know how the story is handled. And going back to the basics of the story, the man, he goes by the name of Thornton, and he is on the hunt for this killer, and the female protagonist, Amanda, she snuck her way into medical school, and she made something called a golden spider, which is an invention to create new nerve endings for her brother's legs, since they are paralyzed. And the man on the track of the murderer, he is interested in the invention as well, because he has a condition that will render his legs paralyzed also. So that's part of what draws them together initially. Well, how they initially meet is that the guy has to end up subbing for her class in medical school. That's how they first met. So, as far as whether or not they'll continue to read it, Christina Brown was pulled in by the first few chapters, so she is going to continue reading it. Carla, she is not really the steampunk type, so she's not going to continue with it, but she said other people who are into steampunk will likely enjoy the story.
All right. Okay, next we have Taken by the Dragon King by Amelia Shaw, the first of 7 books in the Dragon Kings of Fire and Ice paranormal romance series. The other books are $1 to $4 each, and they are not in Kindle Unlimited. The last book isn't out yet, but is scheduled to be released in June, and it is available for pre-order. So Amira Lutfi read this book, and this is the second time this book has been on our list. So Tim, okay, so here's the book cover up close. So as you can see, there's a really like bare-chested guy in the cover, so you know what the book's going to be about. So Tim,
we haven't seen those in a while.
So Tim, what did Amira think about this book?
Yeah, so this one's another shifter romance, and it includes the fated mates trope, which means it's essentially for the sanity or empowerment of the shifter to be united with their fated mate. So Amira likes the fated mates trope, and she likes that the romance is built in the magic system from the start and doesn't feel too contrived. So in this one, there are 6 secret kingdoms hiding out in Siberia, and each one is ruled by a dragon shifter king. Each needs a fated mate. So for all of them, all of them so far are mated except for 2, Stavik and Damon. So one morning, Savik's elder son suggests that he ought to look for more humans for his mate. That makes him angry because he thinks he's not too good. And next, his mate gives him an attitude. He says, "I'm not your king." In each case, it's extremely unbelievable, the dialogue she says, but it's cute. A little hard to follow, but she likes it in the young adult kind of way. Then all the other secret kings show up for dinner as they're eating a fancy meal with dragons who love meat, apparently. The first thing that anyone says about Stavrak is finding a human mate, and Stavrak's again offended. Even though the suggestion makes sense, he's still offended. Secretly, he always felt mating is really important, but he just is getting lonely and I guess feeling like he's not good enough. He's been struggling to find a mate his whole life, and one way he thought that he'd know his mate is by smell. He ought to be able to smell her from miles away, and he's never smelled her. So he thinks that, it's not in the cards for him. Eventually, of course, the perspective switches to another character named Lucy, and Amira thinks that's the woman he's going to fall for. So Amira is not going to come back to this one. Amira says that if you like books that are cute, have a sweet story, and are fast-paced with a fated mates trope, you'll like this one, but it's not for her. And I just gotta say, hey, doesn't really sound like it's up my alley either. But sounds like it could be a good read for people who like that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the people who do like this sort of thing, people who love fantasy romance can read an infinite amount of these books. They're like potato chips. You just gobble them up. It's like one of those soap operas you watch on TV. You can just like watch a million episodes, which is good for people who write these books because they've got this audience that's voracious. All right, which brings us to book number 5 on today's list, which, as you can see, as I make the cover a little bigger, also has a naked guy's chest on the cover for reasons. So this is the first of 5 books in the Sky Clan of the Taori science fiction romance series. The other books are $5 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. So if you want your sexy romance on the cheap, this is the way to go. So this author has been on this list before. So I am not the target audience for this book. Just the title, Submit, is kind of grosses me out. Definitely not my favorite tropes or anything else. And I'm especially not a fan of the trope where the aliens are from a medieval style warrior society, even though they're flying around in spaceships. That just seems like totally weird to me. But I guess it's somebody's fantasy that it's a medieval kind of warrior with horns and a tail, and they have a spaceship too. Okay. So so these particular warriors, while they're flying around the galaxy in spaceships, also wear animal skins and carry knives. So anyway, they're chasing some kind of enemy around the galaxy, and one of these aliens is sick. He's suffering from early onset mating fever. They have to find him a woman. So before they can go back to chasing their enemy, they have to find a whorehouse so he can get laid. And yes, this book is explicit. So so there's a lot of discussion about the fact that what's going to happen if this guy can't find a woman, and because the ship is all guys, and how weird it is that the mating fever is starting so soon. What happens if they all get hit? I mean, they're going to be out of commission. So big problems for them. Then we switch to the point of view of Leah, who's I'm assuming a human woman, who's on a transport ship with a science lab, and she's part of the security team. They're taking a group of scientists and their research to some colony. And while they're on the way, they're boarded by pirates, and Leah and the other women are taken into slavery, and the men are killed. So I don't like the whole taken into slavery trope. That really creeps me out. So this is yet another point at which I personally would stop reading. Meanwhile, back on that alien ship, they've been sucked through a wormhole and thrown 500 years into the future. So the story does move quickly, and there is plenty of action, and plenty of explicit language that makes me think that there's going to be some very steamy sex later on. And it is definitely very readable, but I personally won't be sticking with it, at least not that I'd admit out loud. Who knows? Let's move on to the next book. All right, it's The Celestials by Shelby Elizabeth. Here we go. A complete set of all 3 books in the Celestials young adult urban fantasy series. The books are normally $4 to $5 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So Lilibet Dominguez Torres read this book. The first one is called Stars Begin to Burn. And it starts with the modern world, where shifters and elementalists exist among us. And they're part of everyday life, since the elementalists are allowed to use their powers in public, which is unusual for the typical urban fantasy where everybody's in hiding. So our main character is 16 years old, Riley. She's a young shifter who struggles to find her spirit animal and use her shifter powers. Usually they're supposed to be able to use their magic when they hit puberty, and most of them do, but not Riley and not her friend Tristan. So when Riley meets Tristan for the first time, she sees literal stars in his eyes. So this means something important. Maybe something from shifter history, but they just seem to let it slide. So Lilibet says not much happens these first few chapters. We meet Riley's best friend Alyssa, who's an elementalist, and we meet some other shifters. We get their sense of their personalities and their powers, and we find out about this temple where some of the story is set, and meet Riley's family and see the family dynamic and how she spends her time after school. And then there's a cliffhanger. Riley's dad's in danger, and her mother decides to go and rescue him. But Lilibet said she wasn't pulled in enough to make her want to finish reading the story and find out what happened. She's also discovered, she says, that young adult books are no longer her thing. Okay, next we have Embers by Karen N. Hopkins, the first of 4 books in the Wings of War young adult paranormal romance series. The other books are $4 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. So, Terrence, you read this one. Terrence? I think we may have lost Terrence again. Terrence, oh, you're back.
Yes, Zoom crashed again. Zoom
Wow.
is determined to not let me review books today.
Yes, so Embers by Karen N. Hopkins. What did you think?
Well, I do think it is well written. It opens up with a very tense action scene where these few hunters are in the woods, and these mystical super powered people are in the woods, and one of the hunters ends up getting decapitated and the other eaten alive. And I know you love violence and people dying. Well, back to the story. Basically follows this teenage girl named Ember, whose parents wound up dying in a car crash. Not even any bodies left. They're just pretty much incinerated. And Ember was the only woman, the only survivor of the crash, and she had no injuries at all. And what's the hold on a sec.
Did we lose you again? Well, in case we lost him, in his review, Terrence said that this is not a story that he's going to stick with. But that
I'm back.
Oh, I was just telling people that you weren't going to stick with the story, but that fans of Twilight, or Christian-themed supernatural stories might like it.
Yeah, this I tend to avoid anything that even remotely reminds me of Twilight, and also the main protagonist, the reason she survived the crash is apparently she's part angel, and the end times are coming, and it reminds me of this old trilogy of made-for-TV movies that were on ABC Family called Fallen, and apparently there's another romance movie with Christian elements that's also called Fallen, so this isn't a new idea. And one of the things that instantly made me groan in this story was that the priest that tells her that she's an angel also tells her that there are others like her. When she asks him what he means, he just says that you'll just have to find that out yourself. And I'm just thinking, why not just actually explain it to her? I would make things so much simpler. What's with this cryptic oracle stuff?
All right. Okay. So our second book, number 2 most popular book today on Amazon's top 10 science fiction and fantasy list, is The Magelands Eternal Siege by Christopher Mitchell. Let me make that a little bigger for you. This is a box set of the first 3 books in the 16-book Magelands Eternal Siege epic fantasy series. The other books are $5 to $6 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So the author has 2 other related series, the Mageland Origins, which is 2 books long, and the Magelands Epic, which is 8 books, both of which are also in Kindle Unlimited. So if you like this author, you're going to have 26 books to read, all of which are in Kindle Unlimited. So excellent, excellent deal. Definitely check it out to see if you like it. And I am a big fan of epic fantasy, and an even bigger fan of huge series that are all in Kindle Unlimited, because I have a really hard time remembering character names. And this way, after a few books, I kind of learn who people are. So the other thing I liked about this book is that it begins with a map. I love books with maps at the beginning. What I don't love is books that have long lists of names and other information. I feel guilty that I don't stop and memorize them, but who does? So it starts out with a big giant list of characters, a nearly as big list of tribes that are in the series, and then a list of names of the month. Even some of the seasons have different names. So that sounds like an awful lot of stuff to learn. And I was a little put off by that, but not enough to stop me from reading. So the book opens with Isla, who's creeping around the alleyways of a typical medieval fantasy city. She gets to the building she's looking for, which is guarded by guards with long ironclad clubs. So that gives you a sense of the technology in this world. And then she concentrates and does a Jedi mind trick. Now the guards think that she's someone else, someone they know. So she can.
Don't you mean Jedi mind trick?
Yes, Jedi mind trick. Thank you, Terrence.
Jedi. It's called Jedi. Get the pronunciation right.
Yeah, I told you I'm really bad at names. All right. Then she walks right past them into the building, and once she's inside, now she pretends to be one of the guards standing on the door, and so the next guy who asks her what she's doing, she says, "Oh, I'm just heading to the bathroom," and he says, "Oh, me too." She follows him to the bathroom. In the bathroom, she kills him. Then she walks into the kitchen where she's pretending to be somebody else that is supposed to be there, grabs a serving tray and a bottle of expensive brandy, notices a serving girl who's there, and as she leaves, she now pretends to be that serving girl. She walks up the stairs. She finds the gang boss and his entourage, serves them poisoned brandy. She does some sleight of hand and gets poison into the brandy bottle before she gives it to them. But they're still suspicious. They make her drink it. So she drinks it, but she has magic powers that make her immune to poison. So she just heals herself. And everyone else dies. Okay, so she's a bit of a mass murderer here. Excellent. I'm very much on board. Then she steals a bag of gold and a lump of opium and heads out. She's almost out of the building when there's a scream. People have discovered the guy that she killed in the bathroom. And then there's a pretty exciting chase scene, and when everybody's crowded around, she can't just change her appearance magically because people will notice that somebody who just looked like one person now looks like another. So there's a little bit of a tense moment. Will she escape or won't she? But it's pretty cool, and I've actually begun this book before. Back, I have no idea when I came across it. I have not finished it, probably because I got distracted by something else. But now that it's back on my radar, I'll probably finish it this week because that was my favorite book out of all the ones that I've read today. Carla Nordlund, one of our community members, also read this book, and she also liked it and said that she'll definitely keep reading. She said it reminded her of a high fantasy like The Lies of Locke Remora. All right. Okay, so then we have the final book on today's list, which is that EMP survival book that I was telling you guys about. It's a standalone book, but the author has many similar books up on Amazon, and she's been on this list before several times, writing about small town EMP survival. So an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, is when a nuclear bomb goes off or a solar flare or something else like that. And it takes out all the electronics, but leaves human beings, animals, and plants completely untouched. So it's kind of
GoldenEye.
Funky premise, but a lot of people really like it because these books are often at the top of this list. And Alex KOROLOV read this one because he's been reading all these books for us and he loves them. So Tim, what did Alex have to say about this book?
Yeah, so like you said, we have another EMP story here. An electromagnetic pulse knocks out all electronic devices and leaves all the people scurrying around to survive in the aftermath. So if you're into the post-apocalyptic survival stories, this is the one for you. A lot of EMP books get to the action within the first chapter or two, but Alex said that this one takes a little bit longer. In chapter 1, we meet Jasmine Richards, and she's a college student who is going to become a veterinarian. Meanwhile, she's taking classes and working as a bartender to support her dying mother. Her mother needs a kidney transplant, and her kid sister Olivia is also in high school, who she takes care of. So she has a lot on her plate before the EMP. In the first 3 chapters, we mostly learn about Jasmine's routine and meet her family, her ex-boyfriend. So it's all about getting to know the main characters. The action doesn't even start until the end of chapter 4, and Alex only read a little bit past that. So this is one of the slowest, it's actually the slowest EMP book that Alex has reviewed. The story seems a little light on action, so he's not going to keep reading it, mostly because he found it a little bit boring. It might turn out to be an exciting survival story later on, but he said that he knows there are plenty of other options out there that would hook you much faster. So he's not totally knocking it. He said that it could turn into a good story, but he does wish it moved faster.
I think it ties into people's like kind of wish fulfillment feeling that wouldn't it be great if technology just went away, you know?
Right.
And we were like just people killing other people, you know, like people do. Yeah, one of the problems I have with these books is that often when it starts quickly, the way it starts is that in the first scene, somebody's phone goes dead and he goes, oh no, my phone is dead. And oh no, my car radio no longer works. Therefore, there's been an EMP attack. He pulls out his gun and starts killing everybody before anybody kills him. And I'm like, dude, you know?
Dude, you don't know these people. Like, don't get all knife happy just yet.
Like, and then he goes, finally, everybody who complained about the fact that I was stockpiling guns, ha ha ha, serves them right. And all the women flock to him because he's got the guns and the cans of canned beans, you know? So yeah, I'm not a fan of those books, but so there are the people who like that aspect of it, to kill everybody, you know. I told you I was right, you know, for stockpiling my guns and canned beans. And then there's the human kind of families trying to survive, like this book seems to be. But either way, it's a super popular genre. All right, before we go, I want to let people know that our first anthology is out in all the major bookstores in print and electronic form. And
buy our book. Buy our book.
We also have t-shirts on Cafe Press and Amazon. The links are going to be in the description box below. Don't forget to submit a story. And if you want to write for us, do book reviews for us, any of that stuff, email me. All the contact information is in the links below, as is the link to the entire article. It's in the description. All right. Well, thanks all our viewers for viewing. We love having you here. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any of these episodes. We do them every single Friday. We also have a newsletter that comes out with the Free Friday report so that you can get your Free Fridays reading ahead of the weekend every single week. So you can subscribe to that. The link to that is in the description box below as well. And thank you, Tim, and thank you, Terrence, for joining me.
Yep, thanks for having us on.
And I'm glad you were finally able to connect, Terrence.
Thank you.
All right, I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Right,
That's all, folks.